Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning and welcome. It's Nurse Richard the Wax Wizard. Thank you for joining me. A difficult one, this one. It gave you a bit of a challenge, this one, I'm not going to lie, for a couple of reasons. And at times you will hear the chap in question talking. In the video he was having a right good chat, it's why sometimes it moves about a bit. He's a very chatty fella. There are some times where I've had to mute the audio because he said something, he didn't say anything rude or anything, he just said something that could potentially identify him or somebody else. So there will be times when the noise just disappears for a minute to protect the innocent. Anyway, I knew I was in trouble as soon as I started feeling around in this one, and you can probably see why, can't you? I mean, they're both very full to start with, but the consistency of it is extremely sticky. It's horrible, horrible stuff. Hence the title of the video, Sticky Toffee Ear Wax. I know we like to compare a lot of things with food, don't we, in the medical trade. I'll get into that in a minute.
That's impressive.
But I didn't put no, it was oil that came to the rescue in this one, but I didn't put it in straight away because I don't think, what I really wanted to do was to lift it up a little bit, is separate it a little bit from the canal walls. You can start to see now, can't you, a little bit pink, and then put the oil in then, because if you put it, which I've done now, because if you put it in too soon, it just goes on the surface of the plug and can't kind of sneak around the sides of it, because the whole purpose of it is to try and lubricate the canal wall, make this thing slide out a little better. But even with I think I had to do it a further 2 or 3 times, because I was just so sticky, and it was a fairly substantial one as well, but unfortunately it came away in bits, not so much a huge chunk. I think the last bit came out in one go. Wow. But even with the oil there, you can just see I'm having real trouble from trying to separate that, and it's funny because no two ears present the same. You know, they're all slightly different shapes, different sizes, different amount of hairs, and the wax very rarely presents the same. Obviously you get some that are similar, but you can get all kinds of strange consistencies, from as sloppy as anything to as hard as a rock. But these ones, they're a right pain. And again, you can see I've put even more oil in here. It wasn't too hairy, thankfully. So I managed to, the visibility wasn't affected too much. And just as I said that, it started going blurry. But as you can see, I've lifted it up there. So I'm hoping that a bit of that oil can start sneaking down underneath it and maybe help me to separate it from a bit lower down so we can finally get it out. But you may be asking why have I called it Sticky Toffee Ear Wax? For a start, it's a consistency of sticky toffee. And like I said, there's only so many things you can say about removing earwax for the sake of getting repetitive. I don't want to bore myself going on and on and on about the same things. So this was a chance, and I thought I would look into this, because sticky toffee pudding is one of my favourite desserts ever. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, and I love a sticky toffee pudding. It's usually my go-to thing whenever I'm having a meal out. But it's got to be with custard, not with ice cream. You know, there'll be a lot of you shouting at me now saying, no, it's got to be ice cream. No, it's custard. Ideally one without raisins. I can't stand raisins. It's just horrible little dried up things. It's not food when that happens to it. But yeah, a good old sticky toffee pudding. I love it. And that made me look into, well, what are the most popular puddings? Because this is going to make you hungry, this. I must warn you. We've got most of this out, by the way. Just a few little bits left at the top. He's wobbling about here because he's chatting. So I did look into it. Now, it depends which survey or website you look at, which is the most popular ones. Is in the UK, I'm on about. But the one I found, it was quite surprising, actually, because I couldn't find sticky toffee pudding in the top 10. Yet other ones, it was at number 1, but this one was nowhere to be seen in this one I found. but I'm going to tell you what they are from 10 to 1. So at number 10 was a banoffee pie. Now, it wasn't something that came across when I was younger. I don't know if it was an American thing. I'm not personally a fan, to be honest. Not a huge fan of bananas. Number 9, I am a big fan of, that's scones. And it's not scones. If you call it a scone, then you're from the wrong part of England, in my opinion. It's a scone. And it's called that because as soon as it's on the plate, it's gone. If you don't know what a scone is, look it up. They're very delicious. It should be done with jam and whipped cream. It'll start a debate which order you put it in, because again, that's controversial in different parts of the UK. But for me, jam on the bottom, cream on top. Next one at number 8 was red velvet cake. I love red velvet. I can't believe I can't say it. It's making me dribble that much. Red velvet cake, which I love. Again, I don't think that came from round here. Is that one that came from over the pond, possibly? I'll be honest, I don't think many of them are actually. I think it's supposed to be made. The bread comes from beetroot, doesn't it? But I suspect a lot of the modern ones just have food coloured in. Next was churros. Yes, it's a Latin American thing, isn't it? Whether it's Spanish, Portuguese, Brazilian, I don't know. I love the churros. I always like those when we go on holiday to those parts of the world. Number 6 was a surprise when I saw this, because there was a right blast from the past. It was bread and butter pudding, which I looked into, and that's been around since the 1700s. That we used to make that at school in home economics, as they call it. Might call it food tech now or something like that. Number 5 was cheesecake, which seems bizarre to put cake and cheese together. Some of you in the UK will know where I'm going with that one. And number 4 was jelly. Now, for those of you watching in America, jelly is jelly. What you refer to as jelly is jam. I wish you'd get it right. So when you're having PB&J, as you call it, or peanut butter and jelly, it's peanut butter and jam. It's jam. Jelly is a very different thing. I don't actually know what you guys call jelly. Let me know. Number 3 was carrot cake. Love a carrot cake too. And number 2 was the good old classic Victoria sponge, named after our Queen Victoria. I think the royal chefs used to serve it to her. It's a sponge with jam, cream sandwich in the middle. You can't beat good old traditional Victoria sponge, which I believe was the first recipe I saw when I just did a little bit of reading about it, was in 1615, but I think it was more of a biscuit. Because I think it was only with the Victorians invented baking powder. I didn't invent it, but so it started using things like baking powder, where you got the rise on it, and that's where it became a traditional Victoria sponge that we know of today. And at number 1 was an apple crumble. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan. I prefer rhubarb crumble. I'm not going to lie, which surprised me. No sticky toffee pudding in there. Honourable mentions to I think a trifle. It's a very traditional one round here. And an Eton mess. Eton mess. I do like an Eton mess, which is considered a bit of a posh one around here, because I think it obviously came from Eton. There's two very posh schools, Eton and Harrow, and I believe it started with it was what was served at a cricket match between the two schools. It's where all the politicians and influential people went, the old boys club, as we like to call them. So that was my little tour around desserts, triggered by this, looking like and feeling like a sticky toffee pudding. And again, as you can see with this last one, absolutely drenched it in oil. There was no way tools would have been the right thing for this, because it was just too soft and squishy. It would have just smeared it and spread it all over the place. It would have made a right mess. So the best one with something like this is, even though it keeps getting blocked up, is the suction, just with an absolute shed load of oil. And I think we're nearly there on this, but as you can see, it stretches and stretches and then just breaks off. But I'm going to try and get underneath that. Bit of a narrow exit as well listed here, which is probably why it keeps breaking off. So if I've made you peckish and you feel like you need to go out and buy a cake, I do apologise. But like I said, only so many things you can say about earwax. You can watch it coming out and let's chat about something else. Is it just about to lift that bottom bit there? I think it is.
Yeah, it does.
There we go. Is that all of it? No. It's a bit never-ending as well, isn't it? It's coming from all over the place. Now, this chap really enjoyed this. I mean, you might have heard some of the audio, the bits that I haven't had to cut out anyway. He was really impressed. He was really blown away with what he was seeing on the screen in front of him. And he kept saying things like, oh, that's impressive. Oh, you're an impressive individual. Oh, you're amazing at this. And it was a bit embarrassing, to be honest. But it's nice to be told nice things, isn't it? I really don't think he was expecting, because a lot of people come because they've seen the videos, so they know what to expect. But for those who haven't seen what I do on the internet, obviously mostly the older generation, they're just staring at the screen, looking in awe, because it's obviously a far cry from how they would have had it done back in the days. A lot of them, where they would just flushed out with a metal syringe in their ear from the doctor. Beautiful eardrum at the end of this, anyway. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I know we waffled on a little bit about all sorts, but I hope you had fun nonetheless. But for now, take care of yourself, and I'll see you later. Ta-da.